If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD Law. That's 833-4KMD Law. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD Law. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland street scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
Emailrevealer.com. People ask me all the time, hey Ed, are you still a private investigator? I sure am. Go to emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption investigations, infidelity investigations, where you give us your spouse's email address. We trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. Email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat, locate his hidden assets, locate his hidden bank accounts, find his current place of employment, and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com. Digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages. Create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com, 800-572-9762. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. That's me. I am your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. If you want to get a hold of me, just reach out to me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com if you want to hire a PI, because we're working on the website, so I'm going to be updating the whole website there, so I don't want too many messages going over there and too many orders being placed over there when everything's up in the air with that. So just go get a hold of me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure and check out our Patreon. We are uploading brand new content, exclusive content, brand new ad-free, commercial-free content each and every night over at Patreon. You can't complain. You can't complain. All the old stuff from the old member section is going up one by one by one. All the shows we play here Monday to Friday, going up there, ad-free. And then, too, I got a ton of shows in the can that haven't aired anywhere yet, too. And we'll be putting those up in advance of before airing them. All at the Opperman Report Patreon. Of course, our archives are free. Go to Spreaker.com. You show up down here at Spreaker every Friday night, 8 p.m. And I do my little live show here, my little exclusive solo show, as they like to call it. Used to call it the after show, but now it's the before show. Maybe I should call it the before show. Because so many people started stealing my after show idea, even like a lot of people were doing it. Even like what's his name? Dr. Drew was stealing my after show. These bums, every one of them. Okay, let's see real quick. Oh boy, I've the past week we joined a gym. Started working out the past couple of weeks, feeling really good. A lot of people say they can tell the difference in my energy and my voice and stuff and what things I'm getting done here. So we've been working out first at this park, this outdoor with like a cross-country skiing machine and stuff like that. It's a low resistance, low impact that uses your own weight. But this week we joined a gym, and I bought a bike. I bought a nice mountain bike. It's a decent bike. And I'm going to start riding these trails around here, too. In Florida, it's really flat, so I'm confident I'll be able to go huge distances here. Because back in Vegas, I was going like 20, 30 miles a day. Okay, so I'm still looking for guests, experts, survivors, tips about the Southern Baptist sex abuse scandals. Already we have lined up and it recorded in the can. We have several shows. We have also, too, several people coming forward that are survivors. What's happened here is there are many allegations against the Southern Baptist Church. They did an internal investigation where they have already admitted wrongdoing. And they've put aside a fund to compensate victims. So this is what we're doing now. We're putting together these cases. And some of them are so elaborate, we're going to be shutting down whole entire towns with survivors coming forward and talking about their pastor, the youth pastor, the local police force, the local district attorney. And so this is really, I'm really putting a lot of time and effort into all this. And so far, we're seeing a lot of great results. So if you're out there, you got tips, you got information, you can email me either at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com or at oppermanreport@gmail.com, or you can go to oppermanreport.com and use that contact form there to contact me. But make sure you use your real email address and leave a phone number too. Don't just say, "Hey, Ed, give me a call," and leave a message. No one gets a response from that, whether you're trying to hire a PI or radio stuff. That's just never going to work. You got to give me some kind of a description of what you want. It's just been insanely busy. Because don't forget, too, the past few weeks we had all that new information come out about the Hunter Biden laptop. So I'm still working on that, too, putting that together as well. So really crazy busy over here. What else? There's something brand new that just came up, too. I'm trying to remember. I don't know what it is, man. What is it? It's Hunter Biden, the Baptist stuff. Who knows? Can't keep track of everything. Hey. So, anyways, if you had any kind of, and not even if it's not even any kind of church too, it doesn't have to be Southern Baptist church. Just get a hold of me and we'll figure out how all that will work out. Coming up tonight after this, I'm going to be playing NT Lawyer Remember Crazy Days and Nights? And NT Lawyer, who is short for Entertainment Lawyer, and he runs that gossip website. He also has a Patreon podcast, who I just found out. And I didn't realize that. Then he seems to have quite a bit of followers over there, too, as well. And he was saying that when he played our last interview to his podcast audience, that they loved it so much, and they all were all excited about it. So he was excited to come back on. So we really got along really good this time, too, as well. I just wish there's so many things that I talked to him about. I just wish I could really get into all the details of how I know and how I'm involved and things like that. So mostly we talk about Johnny Depp. And hopefully I'll get a platform to get out there and tell the whole Johnny Depp story. I'm trying to get onto a larger platform. So, maybe I should talk to that. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to bother with that. Oh, God. Some of these shows, they want you to come on, and they got big audiences, man, but their audience is crazy. And just anti-Semites and just right-wing nuts and just cannot follow. They're just not smart people, They have a big audience, but they cater to the lowest common denominator. People that aren't very smart. It's kind of funny. What did I was talking to a guy this week, a potential client, and I was saying, listen, we could do this and do that. And he goes, well, you know what? I listened to your radio show, and, you and me will never agree because I don't believe you because I'm a Trump supporter. And I don't believe, that, and I don't know what he was trying to say. He couldn't understand my politics, so he thought that would affect my skills as an investigator in putting together his case for him. So, and I said, well, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to find you a lawyer as stupid as you are. I just couldn't. I just just because you're gullible, it doesn't mean I'm going to find someone as gullible as you to help you. I'm not going to be able to find you some, TrueAnon, not a QAnon, whacked out guy there to do this. Got TrueAnon on my mind. Got an email from Brace earlier today. Okay, so Anti-Lawyers coming on tonight. It's an excellent show. I really recommend it. Keep an eye out for that. Stay up for that. And if you're listening to the show on some other night of the week, Anti-Lawyer will be coming up, and it will be on the Patreon ad-free, too. That content will be up there as well. We also, me and Anti-Lawyer, we talk about Britney Spears. And it's kind of funny because if you watch the gossip columns in TMZ this week, Britney Spears got married to her current father of her. I know she's pregnant now. So, yeah, the current father of this pregnancy. She just got married to him and had a wedding in her house. And her ex-husband of one day, Jason Alexander, this young man who she had married on a whim in Las Vegas, a long time ago. I think it was like 2015. Oh, you know what? Yeah, let me take a look at that. When did Britney Spears marry Jason Alexander in Vegas? Okay. When did Britney Spears marry Jason, Alexander? Oh, back in 2004. I'll give you an idea. Now, when I'm talking to Anti-Lawyer about this today, we started talking about the Free Britney movement and stuff like that. And I says, man, I don't think, I think she needs supervision. And I even brought up this whole Jason Alexander thing. And I said, hey, I know everybody, down there that was involved in that situation. So, in my opinion, she needed supervision at that time. It's a good thing. Let me tell you, if she did, just think, okay? I'm trying to share with you. Just think that had her family and her people not stepped in to supervise her, she would have stayed married to that fellow Jason Alexander. Now, if you see what just happened this week, she's marrying this other fellow. And by the way, she married this guy on a whim, drive-through wedding using the green limousine from the Palms Casino. And there was a big powwow down there with George Maloof and the big attorney in town, big fancy attorney, a lot of private investigators involved too, and some other folks. And went through this drive-through wedding chapel, and she married this guy, Jason Alexander, on a whim. He had just come up there to visit her on a whim, and they married on a whim, blah, 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 blah. And now we see here years later, and the reason behind the scenes of why she married this fellow is because they had a very mutual interest in certain hobbies and activities. Now, which a lot of people, cause them to get married. Now, if you look here, fast forward, how many years? 18 years. Is that right? 18? Yeah, like 18 plus 4, right? Someone do the math for me. It's like 18 years later, okay? She's marrying this other fellow, and Jason Alexander shows up again on a whim, somehow gets into her house and gets into a fight with security guards. She's got these, this kind of security. I mean, I don't want to get into that too much, but, it's not, there's no reason. No one can get into my house. Let's put it that way. No one's getting there. Okay. No one's walking in off the street into my house for sure. Not even a wedding day. No one's getting into my event. I make sure of these things. So, she's got all this money and she can't handle that. They can't, rope off that area and keep people out. There's a guy at the door. You kid on your wedding day, So, one of the reasons why Mr. Alexander showed up at her door is because a part of his interest in hobbies and behaviors has brought him to the point where now he's, unstable, And had not Miss Britney Spears had some kind of supervision in her life to prevent her from going down that same road, she would be just as crazy as he is. She'd be more worse than she is now. So this Free Britney thing out there, and we even get into the stuff, he mentions names that I don't like to mention because, again, from former situations, I don't need these crazy people in my life stalking me and just screaming at me, man. I just don't need it. I don't need that kind of grief. Especially right now, I'm working on some big, big, big stuff. I'm shutting down a town, Working on some big stuff, man. There's no joke, And I got no time to be dealing with some gossip guy, Hollywood fixer type. Man, I'm not going to deal with these characters. It's just not worth my time or my energy, So, as fate would have it, though, me and Auntie Lori are talking about this last weekend. I think it was Saturday morning. And here we have during the week who shows up after 18 years, Mr. Jason Alexander, and all of his erratic behaviors back into the life of Britney Spears. So we'll be playing that for you tonight. We get into a lot of Johnny Depp stuff, too. And I want you to listen to what we say very carefully, too, because I kind of hint around about some things, too, in that as well. Doing a lot of hinting lately, guys. You got to listen. Okay, you got to listen, man. You got to listen. You got to pay attention. It's not all typos in the titles. Okay, there's a lot of content here coming out for you. And that if you pay attention, you'll learn something. Hopefully, I more and more I lose less hope that this is a kind of platform where I'm making any kind of difference, and I'm really helping people and teaching people or exposing things that I understand and know about. Really, Oh boy, what is this, man? Once the show starts, I get all these crazy messages, man. It's just so wild. They hear me on the radio. I know it's because they know it's Friday night. They know the show's playing. Like, why just pick now to bug me? It just makes no sense. I meant, one second. Okay, so that's a couple of things. And now, another show coming up tonight, besides NT Lawyer, we're talking about Depp, we talk about Joe Francis, we talk about a lot of stuff, Paris Hilton, we talk about a lot of stuff. I think I was talking about Paris Hilton last week, too, on Friday night, which is probably why it came up. But we also get into stuff about, anyway, the other show I'm playing tonight after this is called Dead Man Walking, or Dead Man Talking. And it's about this case here. Let me see if I pull up the description for it. I had the guest write it up for me. Nope. There we go. The Sunset Strip Murders, Truth and Lies. The Dead Man Talking is a podcast by this fellow here, Dave and Dawn Coop. And when they came on the show, it's the first interview they've ever done. They're working on a podcast now, playing recordings and stuff like that. I don't know how much content they narrate on their podcast, conversation-wise. But they're convinced that Douglas Clark, who's convicted of these murders, I think he's still sitting on death row or something like that, serving a life sentence. They got some. They're working on some good stuff, man, and it looks pretty good. So I encourage people to check out their podcast and listen to the show tonight. It seems that this fellow who was convicted of these murders probably was not involved, and it was his girlfriend and her other boyfriend who were the killers. And the other boyfriend wound up dead, too, at the hands of this woman as well. And I think she died while in custody. And I taped it so long ago, I can't even remember. Like, if you had any idea of how much we're getting accomplished here. Oh, by the way, too, the Opperman Report bookstore is back in action. If you go to OppermanReport.com, remember how I used to, when I would have a guest on the show, we would load up the book to the bookstore? Well, I got Ed Parnell. He's helping with that now, too, as well. So whenever you hear a guest we have on the show, just recently I had that guy about the moon hoax, you can go there, too, as well and purchase the book. And I'm going to be posting the links, too, to the books in the bookstore on Twitter and Facebook. So keep an eye out for that. So those are the two shows that are playing tonight after this. Now let's see what else I have here in my notes. And it is 8:22. Okay, so we're talking about the Southern Baptists. Now the title of the show is Jeffrey Epstein visited Clinton White House at least 17 times. Now, okay. Now, Jeffrey Epstein visited Clinton White House at least 17 times. Now, how do we know this story? We know this story because a report came out in December 2021. Okay, this isn't new information, okay? And I have no new information on this whatsoever, very little, okay? The only thing that's new about this, and that is I'm not breaking for you, this is all out there already, is that on 8 of those occasions, Jeffrey Epstein brought a girlfriend with him to the White House, and they posed behind the podium there. And so why am I telling you that, Jeff? Why is the title of the show Jeffrey Epstein visited Clinton White House at least 17 times? Is this because it's new breaking information that I've brought you for how many years now? 8 years working on that story, 9 years. And how many times have I brought you brand new exclusive information that no one had heard before? I can remember back in the old days before Stephen Hoffenberg, Jeffrey Epstein's former business partner, before he would talk on the show, we would talk off the air, and he would tell me, hey, Deutsche Bank is about to shut off all funds to Epstein and shut off all funds to Trump. And the next day, 2 days later, we would be in the news. It would be in the New York Times. So I had all this information before it was published anywhere. From my inside sources and things on these stories. But why am I telling you about Jeffrey Epstein visited Clinton White House at least 17 times? Well, I got to tell you, I was on Twitter this week, and one of these Twitter superstars who was too busy to interview me about my work on the Epstein case, but now they're an expert on this case here, and they're brilliant and doing such great work. That they posted this story. Jeffrey Epstein visited Clinton White House at least 17 times. Word for word, by the way. Okay? Because that story came out in a Daily Mirror. Okay? And it was released to the Daily Mirror. Okay. All right? let me see if I can find this. The Daily Mail reported. So the Daily Mail, a report was released to the Daily Mail, and then every other tabloid, the New York Post, and all these other, use the exact same title, because that was the title in the press release to the Daily Mail. And it was the title of the Daily Mail story. There wasn't a lot of big investigation, big reporting going on to release this information. Epstein visited Clinton White House 17 times. And by the way, too, way back a long time ago when I was interviewing Secret Service agents who guarded the Clintons, and we went over all this stuff about the plane trips, the Clinton going and had to sign forms that had to be notarized and stuff like that in order to release Secret Service escorts to fly on Jeffrey Epstein's plane without Secret Service escort. So we went over all that stuff in detail. You can find all that stuff in my archives, okay, before anybody talked about this stuff. But now we see breaking news this week, someone telling us about a story that was released by press release and then copied by 20 other publications, word for word, that Jeffrey Epstein visited Clinton White House at least 17 times. What I'm telling you is, guys, that is low-hanging fruit, okay, of the most extreme. You can't get any lower than that from a December 2021. You know how many times that story was liked and retweeted on this Twitter Superstars account? Hundreds of people saw this and says, oh my goodness, we are doing such great work. I'm so impressed with your reporting here that you found an article from December 2021. You're amazing. What great work you're doing. What great work you're doing. Now, same person's too busy tweeting to interview me about my personal involvement in all these things. And everything I told you about tonight up until this, or except for that case with the dead man talking, and I could get involved in it if I want to, if I had the time, or had some help, Hopefully I can put together some money by the end of the year, and we'll have a much larger staff and some office space to be working on these type of investigations, these reporter-type investigations. We're trying to raise funds with the bookstore, and I'm going to be putting out some merch, and then we're building up the Patreon, and we're getting into the season where the podcast income increases, and one of my advertisers is we're increasing advertising, so we're going to be adding a whole bunch of AM/FM stations in the next couple of months before December, between now and December, this Christmas season, to build up all that up. So we're looking at really good stuff here. Okay, then plus, we have the income from these cases I'm putting together, from all this work I'm doing. So things are looking very good here. Okay? But why should I bother? Why should I bother? Doing real work in real life, and I come here and tell you about it, and no one gives a damn, but they think it's the most brilliant thing in the world to tell you to repeat a title to you word for word from December 2021. Word for word. Without any idea of what is the agenda behind this information, who released this information, who put it out, why did they put it out, no analysis of any of that, no citing of any source. The most superficial, name-dropping bull, as to quote Mr. Bill Barr last night, bullshit. Okay? And that's what it is, man. And I've been working that story, man, since 2013, I tell you. And what I've seen, it's become a cartoon. It's become foolishness. And somehow these Twitter superstars, man, just incredibly can just regurgitate the most yogurt out there and it's treated like pearls of wisdom. Now, so this causes me great concern when I see things like this, okay? And it's caused me great concern, too, in the past few weeks. I was telling you a few weeks back about how the information about the Son of Sam case and the document that was given to me by Maury Terry, that pretty much I've been holding on to exclusively. Everyone else who has it has gotten it from me. But it's out there, other people have circulated it, but, mostly I don't know, anybody hasn't gotten it from me, but, so someone who's a well-respected author, I've had on the show here several times, I thought they were a legitimate source, and, and it was kind of funny too, because the guest is talking about certain people and things like that, and I'm holding back because, I met the guy, I've been to his house, and I didn't bring that up. I kind of held it back because, some guests are just so ego-driven, they're just so full of ego that, I'm the expert on all this. I'm the expert, and anybody that questions me is all wrong. And I'm just dying to say, well, by the way, I met the guy. I went to his house. We had breakfast over there, and so I hold back, I kind of did this 200 interview yesterday, too. I kind of avoided a certain topic I could get into, say, hey, I'm personally involved in it. And there were several parts for us personally involved that I just avoided. It was a show about motorcycle gangs and motorcycle clubs, and it's a fun interview, fun show. But just, I don't know, man. I'm just kind of hesitant sometimes of really, shining too much light on my own involvement in these things when you have a guest on, especially if they don't know who I am. But here you got someone who's been on the show 3 times. If by now they still don't know who I am, then I'm wasting my time with them, And I went through this whole thing about, hey, if you don't want to look at the evidence, you can examine the evidence and say, well, I agree with it or I disagree with it. But say, well, I don't agree with that. Well, have you seen it? No, I've never seen it. I have it. Would you like to see it? No comment. I'm not no interest in seeing it. When I'm working on something, either for the radio show or in real life, if someone says they have some kind of new information for me, some new evidence, a report from the police, I'd want to say, well, I'll at least take a look. Okay, maybe it's been fudged, it's been doctored, whatever, it came from a nefarious source. Who knows? Maybe the cops are crooked, but at least let's take a look at it. So, that's wrong. I don't believe it. Have you seen it? I've never seen it. What is that? What is that? It just blows my mind. So, and what does this tell me? That someone who I one time had respect for their work, now I got to say, not so much. And these are who? These are my peers. What? And then again too, like, what have you done in real life? What have you done? You're talking about things. You're reading police reports. You're reading documents. You're researching archives, and you're talking about it. But what have you done? In actuality, what have you done? Talked about it? Yeah. Let me check the time here, because we're going to get into this whole thing about January 6th, because we get into that too as well. Okay, we're at the commercial break here. And I've been kind of, the past few weeks, been on such a roll, I haven't even played the mid-commercial. So maybe I'll play a portion, I'll shorten it up. But when we get back, we're going to be talking about January 6th. But it's the same, about things that weren't covered on TV, okay, last night at the Senate hearing. And then when we were discussing it on Twitter, some people just proved themselves to be just so naive about all this that it calls into question every other work they've done. Because if you can be this gullible and naive about this and be your heartstrings pulled by this soap opera yesterday, when it leaves out all this, I'm going to tell you what it leaves out when we get back. Then how can I trust anything else you're working on? And more and more, I brought a lot of people on this show that have later on got on to make big names for themselves, and then we've kind of drifted apart, and I've kind of, I kind of regret, giving them a platform to start with, and then how did they, twist and turn and get all this funding and stuff like that? How did that happen? Did someone get to them? Looking back at the whole, okay, let's not get into too much, because I hate to be so much of this, like exposing people and stuff like that. It's not what I want to do, but I am concerned about other sources of information out there that I find out more and more are just, I just have no confidence in. I have no respect for it. I'm just unimpressed, And I think if I were to puff myself, if the way some people are puffed up and exaggerated and buying hits and puffing themselves up and exaggerating their own importance and their own knowledge in these cases that they have no personal involvement with, that if first of all, if I were to tell you all of my personal involvement in all these things, and I talked about a lot of stuff tonight, if you go back and listen, okay, if I were to come right out and say to you, hey, when that happened, they hired me. Okay, if I were to come right out and say that, well, then again, I think it wouldn't affect anything. The weight, the gravitas of the importance of what I'm trying to share with you, because most people miss it. But if I were to puff myself up and exaggerate my importance the way these people do, I don't know, man. Like, even though, like, I don't think people quite understand with the Hunter Biden laptop story. Okay, that's another thing that's in the background that's percolating in my life here. That I don't think that they could have gotten that search warrant for Dr. Keith Ablow's house had I not gotten his license pulled. I don't think that would have happened. I think he would have had no tarnish on his record, on his reputation. And they never would have attempted that. They would have said, "Oh no, well we got to pay him this money for the laptop." So, but I don't know, man. What do I do? I got to paint this. Like, I don't know. I don't know anymore what to do. I don't know. Let's take a little commercial break here. Well, I don't know. I did a whole interview. A video interview a few months back where basically my answer to every question was, I don't know. Dude, I don't know. It's, you see all this stuff in the news. This is what I know personally. And I see this other stuff and I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know how much of it's fake, how much of it's a lie, how much of it's puffery. I don't know. They never use the interview. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey. And now a word from our sponsors. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein.
Oh, boy. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Opperman Report. Oh, by the way, you know what I did too? You're not going to believe this. I signed up to Trump's Truth Social. But when I signed up the name Opperman Report, I spelled the name wrong. I spelled my name Oppernan. So I was able to fix my username. But it looks like the link is still Oppernan. I don't know. People find it. It seems like there's nothing going on there at all. It seems like a huge loss. Like even Trump has like 200 likes and follows on this thing. It says he has 7 million followers. But then he'll post something and there's like 200 comments. So it's basically a big waste of time. And other people who they got like 25 followers and stuff like that. I've had 2 followers right now. So if you want to go there and follow me, thank you very much. I'm also going to get on Telegram and Gab and that kind of nonsense too as well. Basically just to post links to the podcast. But anyway, let's get back to work here. Last night we had the January 6th hearings, right? We had these January 6th hearings, and I'm watching this crap, and I'm saying, well, where's all the stuff about these cops, like, waving these guys in? Like, where's that? We watch these cops just wave people in, And, again, too, we've been talking about this stuff about how... Oh, yeah. That if it had been leftists storming the Capitol there, we would have been shot back at the bicycle racks, Like when we were pushing against those bicycle racks, those cops would have shot us down right there. So obviously, these people were given special treatment because a lot of them were off-duty cops. We know that now for a fact. They were off-duty cops from New York, off-duty cops from Florida, all over, man. Retired cops. So I'm saying, hey, what about these hill cops that let people through the barricades, held the door open and let them in? Now those were more like protesters, not these serious militia types. How come we're not hearing about that? How come the official story still to this day, the first cop death out of all this was Liebengood, okay, the suicide the next day, Liebengood, whose father was Sergeant at Arms of the Senate for a long time. And then he left and he used his connections there to work for Stone and Manafort. He had a lobbying company partnership with Stone and Manafort. So the cop who committed suicide had a father that worked with, in partnership, Stone and Manafort. And somehow, that's not suspicious to you, Stone was meeting with the Proud Boys. Stone had Proud Boy security guards. We know that the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers met in the White House with Trump. Guys, this is all laid out here, man. How come we're not hearing about these hill cops that were complicit? So I bring this up on Twitter, and this author who's been a guest on my show starts telling me that, some cops were bad, but you can't make excuses. I don't even know what the hell they were talking about. I can't figure out what the hell they were talking about. But to be so freaking gullible that you think, well, these were good cops and they really tried to protect the guy, like they weren't in on this, you're out of your mind. How can you be so naive? How can you be so naive? And then I'm going to take your opinion about anything else after that? The son of the partner of Stone and Manafort commits suicide the next day. And what? Because because he wanted to protect the Capitol? Or because he knows what's coming down? Now, somehow they're treating this guy's widow as that he's a hero. They, all this stuff. So there's a whole nother level to this coup attempt. That's it's just not coming out. And I don't think we're going to see it in these hearings either. There's too much of this, oh, boo-hoo, look at these cops who got hurt. Look how brave they were, these hero cops. Well, by the way, too, man, which is a totally incorrect strategy at this point, because no one has any patience for cops right now after they stood by and let these little kids get killed in Texas over there. Okay? How they let that guy drown in Tempe, Arizona. I'm not going in there to help you. We got it on video, you know? So this whole boo-hoo, cops got hurt. I don't know how that's working out for anybody. You know, I don't think the country's mood is ready for that, okay? Now, the Hill cops stood down. We're not hearing about that. We're not hearing about the background of Liebengood. We're not even hearing, too, how the event planner company was a Manafort company. Okay, Manafort ran the event planning for the Trump rally down there. I think it's called the Circle or something like that, or the whatever that thing's called. Ah, boy, you know. So there was mucho planning here in advance. Now, one thing, too, you have to consider here is, you know, where was the National Guard? How come Pelosi didn't bring in the National Guard? And that's what all these people like Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene keep bringing up. Well, how come? That needs to be investigated. Well, the reason for that is because we know that Trump had a meeting with Flynn, Powell, and now I'm going to forget the other one. Another one, too, before all this, where they were discussing using the National Guard to seize voting machines, and that Trump could declare a state of emergency and call it. You know, once the National Guard is there in position, the president goes on TV and says it's a state of emergency. You know, what do you do then? You know what I mean? You know, so no one wanted to take a chance at that. That was just too dangerous. So that's why there wasn't a National Guard there. But then, did you know, too, that when everything was going crazy there, and Trump allowed this to go crazy for hours and hours and hours. And if you look back, by the way, to months before this, I personally predicted in public on Twitter and on Facebook that Trump was going to use the Proud Boys and these militias and the Oath Keepers for a Bundy-type standoff at the White House and at the Congress in order to prevent the peaceful exchange of power. So I've been predicting this in advance. I'm not a stupid guy, man. You know, people, you know, I'm not a stupid guy. And if I had a little bit more cash to work with, a little bit more free time, a little bit less distractions in my life, you guys would be shocked with what I'd be doing. Okay? Because I'm tapped in to a lot of information. And a lot of sources. I know I've known a lot of people for a long time, and there's no one. Everyone respects my work and what I'm doing. Okay, and I've even. I don't even want to get into that because I'm not going to do it. So we're not hearing anything about this Liebengood thing. We're not hearing. They're not coming right out and saying, "Hey, the reason there was no National Guard is because they were afraid that Trump was going to declare martial law." They're hinting around about that part. Then also, too, do you know that in order to call in the National Guard after it became clear that they're taking, hostages inside the building there, that they had to go through Flynn's brother, Michael Flynn's brother, I forget his name, who ran the head of the army that had to have his authority to bring in the National Guard, because D.C. is different than most states. You have a governor. So it's a little weird there. So they had to go through this guy. Now, how cooperative is he going to be? And plus, we had Trump bringing in all these political hacks to run the Department of Defense and Joint Chief of Staff, I guess it was, So this was so close. You have no idea that the thing's really going bad. They only needed a little bit more help. And they had these characters like Carrick and Giuliani running around there, Stone, and these nuts, these Proud Boys. And these. By the way, too, go back and look. Who was telling you about the Proud Boys back in 2018 when no one knew these names? Enrique Tenario. No one knew these names back when I was telling you this stuff. When I had the top secret Proud Boy manifesto on how to become a Proud Boy and how to get initiated in. And I posted it back in the old members section. That's how long ago this was. No one's talking about how the Oath Keepers had weapons stashed in motels on the other side of the Potomac, man, over in Virginia. Right? And they had off-duty cops. They had a quick reaction force down there of off-duty cops with stashed weapons. Why isn't anyone talking about that? Now, according to Liz Cheney, they're going to start getting into this stuff. But what are we waiting for? This is what we should be talking about now. Now, by the way, if you really want to, it's funny too how Trump is meeting with this Sidney Powell. There's this incredible Axios story called Off the Rails, which is the funniest thing you could read in your life, okay, about these meetings that went on late night in the White House with all these characters. Okay, the guy from Overstock.com eating pigs in a blanket on the couch in Trump's residency at the White House, and Sidney Powell being on the speakerphone, and Trump making faces saying, this woman's crazy. Okay. And by the way, too, I read that whole binder, with all her evidence of voter fraud. I read the whole freaking thing, man, page by page by page. There was nothing in there but a bunch of photocopied crap of investigations and theories and stuff, that into Iran, interfering with our voting machines. Just nothing at all pertaining to this 2020 election. But you go on that Truth Social, man, the Truth Social thing, man, and that's all they're talking about. Oh, we have all the proof. The proof is there. Everyone's seen it. Oh, boy. I tell you, just wild and crazy, man, just wild and crazy. So coming up after this will be NT Lawyer. It's great stuff. It's one of my favorite interviews in a long time. After that is the one about this dead man talking, which is another one that it's one of the best ones I've done in a long time, too, as well. These are all good interviews. I enjoyed them all. I can recommend them to you. Don't forget, once again, we are looking for survivors of the Southern Baptist Church sexual abuse. Okay? So keep an eye out for that. And if you have any kind of information, you can contact me. You can email me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you're a survivor, if you worked at a church and you have information, get a hold of me. Okay, because like I said, we are putting the huge sweeping cases together. Okay, that are sweeping through towns, where people are going to have to resign in disgrace. Hopefully, we'll get some criminal charges, man. Some of these, it's just so hard. Because I was talking to this guy today from Civil Rights Corp.org. This fellow, Alec Karakstanakis, I'm pronouncing that totally incorrect, about how it's impossible to get the cops to investigate sexual battery or child molestation cases. All they're working on is these cases against the poor, So, it's really an uphill battle, man, to get those things going. But at least civil judgments will be able to get people fired from their jobs, that kind of stuff, and publicly exposed for what they've done. And compensation to the victims, which is what people are looking for. So we're out of time. Thank you so much once again. Keep it out. If you can support the show by going to Patreon, becoming a Patreon member, that always helps. And like I said, we got big stuff in the works, and man, if I just had a little office with some staff working on these investigations, you'd be shocked what we could do, because we're doing real stuff, man. We're not just talking about stuff. You got another guy with 300,000 Twitter followers just sitting on Twitter talking all day, and oh, you're doing great work. Oh, we're so proud of you. Here's $50, is $100 all day long. And what are they doing with it? What are they spending on? Champagne? Caviar? What are they spending on? New Twitter fingers, gloves for their Twitters, to tweet. What are they doing? Give me a break here. Next coming up is NT Lawyer, guys. All right. Let me see if there's anything in the chat room I want to respond to. Any responses I must make. Thank you, Ed. Can't wait. Well, that's good enough. Okay, I'll respond to that. Okay. All right, guys. I love you so much. Thank you for everything. A lot of comments in the chat room today. By the way, too, people who are in the chat room every weekend for the live shows, you might want to go back and check a couple weeks later because other people come and comment and ask questions more, and they never get a response back because until months later, someone else is watching a repeat, and they'll respond back. But otherwise, there's a lot of content going on back and forth there. Sometimes good information. People will share things, and the usuals aren't in there. All right, guys. Good night.